Lux your way with the Lux Cravings boxes from Taco Bell. There's the classic $5 box, the indulgent $7 box, and a whole new obsession in the $9 box, the Flamin' Hot Grilled Cheese Burrito. Try the Lux Cravings boxes at Taco Bell today.
Hey Bronco Nation, this is Boise State football wide receiver Ben Ford. I've had to face some setbacks on the field this past season, but toughness isn't about staying down. It's about getting back up. I am proud to represent Lithia Ford of Boise, where you can find the largest selection of Ford trucks that are built tough and, like me, handle the hits and keep pushing forward. Come check out the incredible inventory and competitive pricing at Lithia Ford of Boise. And when you buy here, you're not just getting a truck, you're supporting Boise State athletics and Lithia Ford NIL partnerships. Come see us at Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho.
Find your sun with Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea. Made with real iced tea and real vodka. Cold, refreshing, and made for moments like these all year long. Let the good times cruise with Sun Cruiser.
As sports fans, we may cheer for different teams, but there's one thing that we can all agree on. We want the game to be big. And with 3 levels, 30 cabanas, a 143-foot screen, 6 clean pools, and endless cold drinks, it doesn't get any bigger or any better than Stadium Swim in Las Vegas. All sports, all seasons. It's more than a pool deck. Stadium Swim. It's the only thing like it in the world.
The final buzzer is sounded on another night of Mountain West basketball, and it's time to break down the action with Tom Moser on another night in the Mountain West, presented by Circus Sports. Headed to Las Vegas for the Mountain West tournament in March? Make sure to stay at Circa Las Vegas and watch all the action at Stadium Swim, where the sports are on 365 days a year. Another night in the Mountain West has interviews, analysis, opinions after the final Mountain West basketball game of the day wraps up. All BNN broadcasts come from the Sun Cruiser Studios. Sunny days call for Sun Cruiser Vodka Iced Tea, made with real iced tea and real vodka. It's refreshingly smooth and easy to drink. Crack open a Sun Cruiser and let the good times cruise. The title sponsor of Bronco Nation News is Lithia Ford of Boise. Check out our full inventory of vehicles online at lithiafordboise.com. Lithia Ford of Boise, where Ford begins in Idaho. Did your team just get a big win? Suffer a bad loss? Come discuss it with us. Send us a comment or question in the ICCU YouTube chat, or leave us a voicemail at speakpipe.com/BNN. Now let's go to the Sun Cruiser Studios and join Tom Moser for another night in the Mountain West on Bronco Nation News.
What's up, good fans and friends of the Mountain West Nation? This is another night in the Mountain West, and quite a late night it was here on Tuesday, the 17th of February. As we head towards the stretch run in conference play, things got turned a little bit upside down here with the late 2 results. A couple of big-time upsets here as Grand Canyon goes into Viejas and handles San Diego State in the second half with a 10-point 73-63 victory. A little bit before that, San Jose State with a dominating 15-point, pretty much wire-to-wire win over Nevada. I think it was 87-71 was the final. We're actually going to be joined in a minute or two by Tim Miles live. So I will start with that game. And then, of course, we will talk for quite a bit about the game that just concluded in Viejas. But let's start with the game in San Jose where, I mean, listen, they've hung around teams for 30 minutes. I'll ask Coach this, directly, but for plenty of games where they've been in there, they just can't finish the deal. We've talked about it at length here, ad nauseum, basically, how they're shorthanded seemingly night in and night out. Even tonight, kind of the same thing. They got a couple more guys at least could suit up tonight and play. But tonight they finished the job. Now, they did need some help from Nevada, okay? And the Wolfpack shot 3 for 20 from 3. Right, that's not going to get it done against anybody. Okay, now some of those were forced in the last minute or two when they were just in trying to play real catch up, and they were just jacking stuff up. But 3 for 20 is not going to get it done against anybody. You allow San Jose State to shoot 52%, not good enough defensively. I mean, just a disappointing effort for Nevada, as it looks like we do have Coach Miles in here ready to join us. Coach, can you hear me?
I can. How are you tonight?
I'm good. How are you? Tim Miles here joining us on another night in the Mountain West. His Spartans get a really big 87-71 victory over Nevada. And Coach, I was just saying, you guys have been in there with many of the top teams for 30, 35, even 38, 39 minutes, going all the way back to that game in the non-con against Stanford, a team on the bubble that you took right to the wire. You finally got one tonight against a really good Nevada team here. What was the message and what was the locker room like?
Yeah, the locker room was great, of course, right? I mean, these guys have suffered for a while. We're obscenely shorthanded. We've got, probably 43 points sitting out in gray sweatsuits. And so I just credit our kids' resilience, hanging in there, sticking with it. Tonight we had a good defensive effort. We got to Camper. We got to their three-point shooters. They got us inside, but, Colby Garland has 29 and 9. Adrian Myers has a double-double. And we really shot the three well, especially early. I think we made like 6 of our first 7 or something like that. So we got out to a quick start, and we needed that for confidence. When you've been losing, you need that for confidence. And we did enough in the second half to stretch it out again. So I'm happy for our kids.
Yeah, I'm sure you are. As you mentioned, the three-pointers, you made 15 out of 29. They made 3 out of 20. So you outscored them 45-9 from the three-point line. You're going to win most games when you do that. You mentioned, I talk about it every night I'm on here when you guys play. It's incredible. And I challenge some of the people tuning in to go through other box scores across the country to find another team that played 6 guys for the entirety of a game the way that you did on Saturday night. What kind of challenge does that present when you really kind of don't know who you're going to have night in and night out? It's pretty wild. I can only imagine what goes on in the coaches' meetings. How do you handle that?
Yeah, not well. Not well. But obviously, like, your job is to lead the kids you have. It's the old remember Hoosiers when Norman Dale wouldn't, he was mad at one kid. So he says, my team's on the floor. We're going to worry about who we are not, who we are not. That whole deal, right? I really view it like that. Like, I'm only going to worry about who we are, right? And try and keep those guys fighting, keep those guys moving in a positive direction so we can cause problems. We've got enough skill to create some problems for people, right? It's been our defensive effort and our ability to get on the glass. And I think as we, move forward, I think that's really important as we try to continue to figure that out.
Sure.
You shouldn't be figuring it out at this time of year, but hell, we are. So that's just the way it is.
Well, that is the way it is. You play the cards you're dealt. So speaking of that, take me inside the huddle here. There's 15 minutes left in the game. So 5 minutes have been played in the second half, and Nevada's in the bonus already. What do you, aside from letting the officials know that, as I saw you do, what are you telling your guys? Are you changing the game plan because you don't want to have them shoot free throws every possession? Are you doing anything differently after they get the 7 fouls in 5 minutes?
I did not. I just told our guys, keep playing hard. Keep playing in position. If there was a silly foul, of course we talked about that, but we wanted to be physical. I think that if you're going to beat Nevada, Boise, San Diego State, you've got to play with extreme physicality. No choice. And some of our guys are learning how to do that without fouling. And so I think that just is part of the territory, so to speak. And we're just going to keep fighting and keep doing it. And hopefully that we can build on this and going into our game Saturday afternoon in Boise.
Yeah, definitely. Listen, you talked a little bit how you wanted to chase their shooters off and get them off the line. So you got to pick your poison kind of against any good team. And man, Price is a load inside. What was your game plan defensively against him? He's a tough guard, and man, he's physical for he's a big guy, but he's not a strapping 7-foot monster. But he's a load in there. What was your game plan against him, knowing that you were already trying to take away the 3-point line?
Yeah, we had to attack him. So we were literally going to get him off the block, right, as much as we could with physicality. And if he got it, we were going in with double teams. Quickest, closest guy, rotate out to cover the 3-point shooting, and hopefully they don't kick it opposite and get us on something like that, and just keep attacking. And we've done that periodically through the year, and I thought that was a good game plan. Not sure we can do that against a guy bigger like Felder or Fielder. Drew, you know who he is.
Yep.
He knows who he is.
Yep.
But we'll just see how it goes. Every team has their own challenges, and we'll game plan accordingly. But that was our game plan. We wanted to be on the attack.
Yeah. Well, let me get you out of here with this one, Coach. Oftentimes you'll see teams that have been struggling to break through. We know you got the conference win against Air Force a few weeks ago, but you've been close most of the time. Every game's a close game at the half. Oftentimes you'll see a team break through, and then they start to see things clear in a sense. Do you get that feeling with your guys that maybe you're going to play a little freer now? Obviously, it depends on who's available for the games, but the games are going to be tough from here on out because there's a lot of good teams in the conference. But you have a feeling that you might go on a little bit of a run here. You'll play a little bit freer, and you'll be in some more games with a chance to win late.
Exactly what you're saying is what we're telling our guys. I mean, hell, you could coach, and it's not that complicated, right? And so that's what we've been telling our guys is that, for a while we've been saying for like 2 weeks, like, hey, listen, we're not going to the NCAA tournament as that large. There's only one way for us to do this. That's winning the Mountain West. We got to get ourselves organized and ready and have a team that we know can operate, right, the way we need to, so we can be good and be scary in March. And hopefully we're scary in February. And maybe tonight was the start of that. I hope it is. I don't take any stock. This league is a bear. I've been around it for a long time, 10 years now. And it's a well-coached league. Players are good. It's a physical league. And I think our kids are finding their way. And hopefully we'll be another tough out in Saturday afternoon in Boise.
Yeah, well, I hope so. And look, you made a run a couple years ago with Amari Moore. You got yourself to the semifinals of the conference tournament. So I'm sure, the way that you guys have the potential to make shots.
Back? Maybe he's only been a pro for a couple of years.
Well, listen, the way that things are trending, you might be able to get him for another year. So you might have to pony up some NIL for him. But obviously, it is possible to get some more eligibility from. But hey, look, nobody's going to want to play you guys on Wednesday the way you guys can shoot the ball and hang around for 30 minutes. He did it for 40 minutes tonight. So good luck up in Boise on Saturday for the rest of the season as well. Maybe we'll catch you again down the road.
Thank you. See ya, man.
Thanks,
have a good night.
You too.
See ya.
All right, that was Tim Miles. Gracious enough to join us here on another night in the Mountain West. I was in such a harried state here and hurried coming on here with what was going on. I didn't introduce one of our sponsors here, Sun Cruiser. Can't forget the old Sun Cruiser. I sent a tweet to BJ, went out for lunch the other day, and there's a little, I don't even know what you call them. It's something right in the lobby there, sponsored by Sun Cruiser. So I almost asked them if they watch the show. I'm kind of joking because I know they don't over here in Delaware, but Sun Cruiser, give them a shout. And also down at the bottom there at Mountain West BNN, go subscribe, please. If you don't already, go subscribe at Mountain West BNN. Also now BJ doing a heck of a job here. We had talked earlier. We were just waiting for a moment to get Tim Miles on. Great interview, great guy, great coach. Respected by everybody around the league because he does less with more. He does more with less, right? No, very little resources, very little NIL and support. The stands are, I won't even say half empty because that will be an insult to the half because they were like 80% empty. And he just squeezes what he can out of them. So we were waiting for Miles and his team to pull one where we could get him on. And this was an easy grab here once they got this night's victory tonight. In a minute, I think we're going to get Jaden Henley coming on from Grand Canyon after their upset in Viejas. You have to call it an upset, right? The Aztecs were probably about an 8-ish point favorite. And I think Nevada was a 10 or 11 point favorite. So two really big upsets here to close the night. There were two games earlier in the night as well. So lots to talk about here. We're kind of in a different pattern here with Miles coming on right away. So really appreciate him coming on. I will finish a couple things up on that game now that we got him, now that Coach Miles was on. A lot of things that I said to Coach are accurate, right? Like they're shorthanded. That's not going to change seemingly, right? He did add another player or so in there tonight. They had the potential, as I said on the show last night, or I guess it was Saturday night. They're going to hang around for 25 or 30 minutes in this game. Will they have enough down the stretch? Now, as I said right before Coach came on, Nevada contributed. They did not play their best game. Half a step slow, not seemingly engaged as much defensively, and it bit them in the butt. Maybe they were hoping that they could come in with a B- effort and get by because they're more talented. They beat this team by 33 at home, but, credit to San Jose State. They didn't care. They were hungry for a win, and they got the win, that they were hungry for. So much credit to them. I will finish up on that game in a minute, as it looks like we have Jaden Henley joining us right now, courtside in Viejas. Here we go. Jaden, you got me?
Yep.
All right, Jaden Henley, welcome to another night in Mountain West. First of all, congratulations on the big victory for your Lopes tonight, 10-point win in Viejas. Not an easy place to play, as you know. Tell me your top of mind thoughts about what it took to get this victory tonight.
I think we were the more connected team tonight. I think we came out and everything we talked about in the locker room, coming out with physicality, throwing the first punch, and maintaining the entire time. I think we did that the entire game. And that's why we had the results tonight.
Yeah, so look, first half, you guys controlled most of the first half. They went on a really big run the last 3 or 4 minutes and took a lead. And so most people would kind of think then that the momentum would carry over into the second half. But as you said, anybody who watched the game, once that second half started, something else clicked, and you guys dominated that second half. What was Coach Drew's message in the locker room to you guys at the half?
We have to come out and throw out the first punch. Obviously, at the end of the first half, they threw a punch at us, and we weren't really in control the way we wanted to. So we tried to come out and be us, and that's what we did.
So let me ask you this. Obviously, when you guys played the first time, 3-ish weeks ago now, 3.5 weeks, everybody knows what happened at the end of the game. The questionable foul call. Mackay draws the foul, makes it 2 free throws to win by 1. A lot of people said, well, it wasn't a foul, shouldn't have been a foul. San Diego State got robbed. Did you guys hear any of that? Did you feed off of that? I think everybody kind of just assumed that San Diego State would come in and get revenge tonight, and take their frustrations out on how they got, quote unquote, robbed in that game. Was that you guys feed into that at all? Did that give you a little extra motivation? You talk about that at all?
We don't listen to no outside noise. We're only worried about the people in the locker room and the next game ahead of us, to be honest. The way they ended is basketball. It's Mountain West. Crazy stuff happens that night. So, we just come out here and play our game. So.
Yeah, well, that's good. You obviously know the Mountain West more than most of your team, well, all of your teammates really, having spent a year at UNLV. And I thought you guys, you had such a great stretch there for a few weeks, and then maybe you kind of hit a lull. You had a disappointing loss against your former team a couple weeks ago at UNLV. You had a tough home loss. You guys don't lose a lot at home, but now you've bounced back with 2 in a row here. What's it going to take for you guys to continue this, in the last few weeks here of the regular season?
Continue to be us. One thing on those two games we lost, we just kind of talked about we needed to be more connected as a team, as a player on the court, being able to talk to each other and not take things personally or have emotions being played, because we're all here for one goal, and that's winning the game. So I think as long as we continue to do that, we can beat anybody on this court. So.
Absolutely. And you were the leading scorer tonight with 21. I thought one of the big keys tonight was the big guy, Demeril, inside. He had 14 and 11. Speak about his game tonight.
He dominated. He was, if you ask me, he was the best player on the floor tonight. He made so many good plays for us, and he was so dominant inside the paint. They couldn't do anything with him down there. When he has that type of motor and he continues to play like that, we're going to win a lot of games. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I thought he's certainly come leaps and bounds from the non-con. I know Coach Drew, not in so many words, kind of called him out after some of the tougher non-conference games that you guys played. He looks like a different player now. With him playing that way, you playing at your level, hopefully you get Caleb Shaw back soon. Dusty making some shots. You guys will be a tough out. The Lopes program has a history of winning in Vegas. Obviously, it's a step up for the program now being in a different conference, but it really shouldn't matter because you guys have come from all different programs. There's not a lot of experience for GCU there, so it's all new players. I don't think that matters a lot. How do you feel as you head into this stretch run here?
Continue to be us, take it one game at a time. Don't look too far ahead. Don't look back on the last game. It's over with. You got to keep looking forward and get ready for the next opponent every day. That's the biggest thing you can do. If you look too far ahead, you might get snuck, and that's just not what we want. We want to win games. So,
yeah. All right. Well, listen, last one for you. I think it's in a week. You probably don't circle stuff on the calendar like that. But obviously you got the return matchup coming back to Phoenix with UNLV again after they knocked you off. I'm sure you're going to want that one. You got a short turnaround for your game Saturday. So you got 5 games left in the regular season. Any goals? Coach talk any postseason stuff? Any goals like that? What's the kind of talk around that stuff after a win like this?
We want to make the tournament. I mean, that's been the goal the entire year for us. And I mean, we're taking one game at a time. We're going to be right where we want to be. So obviously we know we got to have a lot of momentum going into the Mountain West tournament. So we're going to keep playing our game and keep being us. I think we're going to be just fine.
Yeah, well, you certainly look like it tonight. You guys have shown stretches where you've certainly looked like you can play with anybody in conference. Heck, you've beaten the 2 teams at the top, and actually now you own 3 wins against the top 2 teams in a conference. So that's pretty remarkable. So, Jaden, thanks for joining us. Go celebrate this victory with your teammates, and good luck this weekend.
Thank you for having me.
You got it. All right, that was Jaden Henley here on another night in the Mountain West. 2 guests, one night. 2 big upsets again. I've said it a few times now, but man, like that was not easy to predict, right? And I saved that talking point for when Jaden came in because I wanted to ask him about it. He gave a very good answer, and I largely believe it. And it's easier said than done to block out the noise and only pay attention to what's being discussed in your locker room, right? Maybe some of the guys can do it, but some of them are on social media. They know what the talk is, right? What the discussion is about all that stuff. And the fact is that most people assumed that the Aztecs would roll in this game because, they got robbed in Phoenix and this and that. And, it was just they were going to get their revenge here. And you know what? The other team has to comply with that. And GCU had zero interest in complying there. And with the exception of that 3-4 minute stretch at the end of the first half, they looked like the far better team tonight. They did. Hold on. I think let me finish really quickly with Nevada, and then I will get back to this game. We're done with guests for tonight. Thank both of them for coming on. It's awesome. Player and a coach. Love to have anybody on. We hadn't had anybody from San Jose State on yet. We had Coach Drew on before. That's why I wanted to get a player tonight from GCU. So that was pretty cool to do. But let me finish with Nevada here because that I don't want to say it was a disinterested Nevada. Maybe they were looking ahead a little bit as they have a game on Saturday with Utah State. So maybe they were caught looking ahead. You just beat this team by 33 a few weeks ago. They just played a game the other night with 6 guys. It's kind of like, how do you take that game seriously when you just won by 33 against this team and you go into the gym and there's nobody there, right? So that's where the leadership comes into play, both from the coaching standpoint and your veterans and your players. Okay. Clearly it didn't work tonight. Alford, and I didn't put the box up. I want to do that quickly because I wanted to look at the minutes for Nevada's guys. We were kind of focusing on the Spartan stuff because we had Miles on and they won the game. And we talked about Garland was massive with 29-9 and Myers 21-13. And he mentioned Price and Camper. Those guys had 14-8 and Price had 7 boards. But, Alford, he gave a lot of minutes late to guys like Walker and Robinson and Armo Trading. He seemed displeased, if you will, with Comer and TR. Obviously, 8 minutes for him. He was a non-factor. I don't think he liked Comer on either end of the floor tonight. And, I guess Lowry was in foul trouble, so maybe that kind of limited his minutes. But I just thought that Walker and Robinson got more minutes than they've been getting in games like this that have been close. And I think Alford was a little, not thrilled with some of the efforts that he got tonight. So I will get to the comments in a minute. I was a lot of juggling, a lot of moving parts here. So, look, as I tweeted out, that's going to kind of stick a fork in the Nevada bubble. They were pretty much win out, period, anyway. And even then, I don't know that it would have been enough. Like, they would have had to win all 6 games, which would include beating New Mexico and Utah State at home, which they can do, and then winning every other game, and then probably making the at least the semis, if not the finals of the conference tournament, because they're not really near anybody's first 8 out at this point before tonight. But this is just 100% going to just cook their goose. They're down to the 3. Well, I guess it'll be 4 now. They're going to struggle to achieve the 4 seed, especially with that. They needed to tie with Grand Canyon because they have the tiebreaker over them. Well, this certainly did not help tonight. So they're looking at a 4-game and 4-day stretch. Even if the first game would be Air Force in the 5-12 matchup, it's still a game. So, what you saw tonight is a team that is not good enough when you don't bring your A game, okay? Because I've said it plenty. I just think their offensive ceiling is limited. You saw that tonight. They look really porous offensively, like San Jose State. Good game plan, good effort. They're not a great defensive team. And so it's just one of those things where Nevada didn't play great, but some teams can overcome that against a team like San Jose State. Nevada is not good enough to do that. Okay. They're just not. They're a good team. They're not a great team. And it bit them in the butt tonight, unfortunately. And now you're going to see them, they'll get up to play UNLV, which will be a tough game. They'll get up to play New Mexico. And they'll get up to play Utah State on Saturday. Doesn't mean they'll win all those games. I could see them winning 1 or 2 of them for sure, but they're going to have to charge up for the Thomas and Mack Center in a few weeks. So we'll put that one to bed. Now let's get to the late one here, the other upset. As and I had started talking about this, right? And Jaden didn't want to address it, and I'll give him full credit for that. And again, it's possible that it was not addressed much. I doubt Coach Drew brought that up, right? They won the game. He's not going to point that stuff out. But as kid, I don't want to call them kids, but as college students, it's certainly likely that, some of them knew the discourse around it through social media or through other students or whatever it is that, that was the narrative for that game and then this game. And that that had zero impact on them. They didn't care at all. Maybe, in fact, it hurt San Diego State because they didn't look right at all. They didn't look right to start the game. They didn't look right at all in the second half. They looked out of sorts. So, defense travels. Said that a lot this year. Well, I mean, that's not a new thing to basketball this year. Defense travels. And Grand Canyon has been a defensive first team all season. Now, tonight, they just happen to make some shots a little bit too. I don't think I guess they didn't shoot the ball tremendously. They shot 43% from the field, 35% from the 3. Let me put these up here for a minute. 43% from the field, 35% from 3. Again, San Diego State 3 for 15, 20%, not going to get it done. I mean, foul shots were pretty similar, right? I mean, Grand Canyon took a couple extra ones late with some fouls. That flagrant that they called on BJ, I guess, against Henley, that was not a very good call. I guess I could have asked Jaden how he was feeling. I was too wrapped up in what was going on. I should have asked him because he took a hard fall there. It wasn't a flagrant foul, but that had zero impact on the game. Boards, even at 36. Bench points, big edge for the Aztecs. Paint points was even. Bird showed up tonight. Bird showed up. He was very good tonight. 18-4, shot the ball well, made some tough shots, did his thing defensively. BJ Davis, 5 points, 2 for 9, no bueno. Reese Waters, 6 points, 2 for 10. Bad, not even no bueno, bad, just bad. Nobody else in double figures, okay? Odin, an absolute 0, trying to dunk on people. Like, who are you kidding, dude? Like, this is a Division I game with very good players. You're not playing pickup at the rec center, okay? You are not dunking on people. I'm sorry. You're not playing a Division II opponent here, okay? Heidi was okay. I mean, he only played 14 minutes. I don't think Dutcher liked the matchups out there with Heidi because he got bossed around, as I tweeted out. Not just he, but Demerol was huge tonight. 14 and 11 in 27 minutes. He even sat for a stretch in the second half because he had 3 fouls. And for him to get 14 and 11 on the road against the Aztecs front line or defense or whatever you want to call it, that's pretty impressive. Guath, okay, 7 boards. Did have 4 turnovers. That's not good. 2 for 8, missed all 3 of his threes after looking so smooth the other night, and just not enough from the other guys. Simmons was good, 9 points, 2 for 2 from the floor, 4 boards. Let me get the stats off the screen. I want them to clog up the screen there. And then I guess the rest of this stuff I kind of went over. Stromer hit a 3. Evans played pretty well. He hasn't done much lately, but he was effective tonight. Breidenbach shouldn't be shooting threes, but he hit a big one. That's when you know it's your night. Owusu Anane, it's odd. This is kind of like the Andrew Meadow thing. He hit a couple threes in the first half. He only took 4 shots for the game. He needs more shots. Now, he also had a little bit of foul trouble. He played 32 minutes. He's got to take more than 4 shots. He's a good player. Demeraux, 14 and 11, like we said. Henley, 21. Williams, 11 points. And Brian Moore, 7 points on 2 for 6 shooting. So, but look, as far as the rest of the stuff goes, I just never got the feeling that San Diego State was in control here. And, at the start of the second half, my first thought was, well, this is an exact replica of Saturday night when they had a lead against Nevada. It was a bigger lead then, but the first 4 minutes were just horrible, and that's what happened tonight. The problem was it was not just a 4-minute lull by San Diego State. It was like a complete domination. This looked like a way better team than the other team. That's all there is to it, okay? And what's frustrating for me, okay, is that you can say, well, Nevada on Saturday night, Nevada came charging out of the half. They were ready to go. They played a great first 4 minutes. It wasn't necessarily that San Diego State was bad because they got it going the last 15 minutes and looked good. It was just, let's credit Nevada for that first 4 minutes. And now tonight, same thing. Well, San Diego State, well, I would say they were bad. I think we had a Miles Bird turnover and then a missed layup. That was their first 2 possessions where Grand Canyon goes bucket, okay? But it was like, well, let's give Grand Canyon credit for coming out of the locker room fired up and having a good game plan and making good adjustments and coming out ready to play. So that's all fine and well. But why doesn't that ever happen on the other side of the coin then? Why don't you ever see that for San Diego State? I don't get that. Why don't they ever come out at a half charged up and ready to go? I know Arizona's a top 5 team in the country, but even going back to that game when they were tied at the half and then they got routed in the second half. Go back to the Boise game. Go back to Saturday night against Nevada. Go this game. I'm sure there's others that I can't think of right now. Why don't they ever come charging out of the half? So that's it's something. It's either a coaching thing or a player thing. I don't get it. Maybe there's stuff in the comments here. Maybe Aztec fans can chip in with that. I really don't know, but it's frustrating. Look, Dutcher's Dutcher's a fantastic coach. Okay. But as I say all the time about things, it's very, very difficult to check off every single box and be a 9 or a 9.5 out of 10 in every box that you do in every part of coaching. Right. And maybe that's one area where Dutcher doesn't excel. I don't know, because it's a pattern at this point. It just is. Right now. So I don't know. And I'm frustrated. Look, massive credit to Grand Canyon. Part of me wants to be like, well, that ought to, shut the Aztec fans up who are yapping that, well, we'll get them when we come home and, we got robbed and what. Well, they shoved it where the sun don't shine tonight. Okay. They came into your building and dominated, but I'm frustrated because now we are very likely going to struggle to get a third bid. And it's possible that we don't even get 2 bids. I still think we'll get 2, but it becomes less likely by the day. I think the most likely path is that Utah State doesn't win the conference tournament because it's difficult to double up. Okay. And they're clearly the best team. And I wouldn't have said clearly before tonight, but if you'll recall last week on multiple shows, I've said for a couple weeks going back now that watching these teams back to back, now they weren't back to back tonight because Utah State doesn't play till tomorrow, but watching these teams back to back, I just had a thought and viewed it as though Utah State had another gear. Okay. And that their extra gear reaches a higher level than San Diego State's. And I know that doesn't make Aztec fans happy, but that's what I saw over the last few weeks. And that's exactly how it played out tonight. Okay. Now, again, I fully expect San Diego State to beat Utah State when they play in Viejas in a week or 2. Okay. I don't know about the rest of their games. I don't know if they can, at this point, I don't know that they can sweep at Boise and at New Mexico. It's probably doubtful. They will probably lose one more game. In addition, well, That's it. They'll probably lose one more game. And I've seen respected bracketologists before tonight say they needed 5-1 in their last 6. Well, guess what? They already have the 1. So that means they got to go 5-0. And then we'll see what happens heading into the conference tournament. Okay. I mean, clearly they'll have a chance to win that. All right. And we have to see what happens on the rest of the bubble. You know, Ohio State beats Wisconsin tonight. That's not going to help our cause. Right. You know, I don't know who else was in the mix, or I didn't see everything else tonight, but you know, it's you don't want to play the game where you have to like root against all these teams and hope for all these results. You know, it can be kind of fun when they go your way, but you just can't expect it to always happen. Right. And now we're in a position where both of our teams, New Mexico and San Diego State, are on the outside looking in, and they play each other in a week and a half. So whoever loses that game is probably, you know, persona non grata. They're going to be see you later. Right? Because that's another loss. And then another one if they don't win the conference tournament. So that's going to pretty much eliminate one of those teams in all likelihood. All right. There's just not enough strong wins for either of them to overcome all of these losses. Okay. It's unfortunate, but this is what happens when you lose this game. If you're San Diego State, if you lose the Boise game, if you're New Mexico, right? It's just, and it's unfortunate, but it's the way it is, right? We said back in November, December, conference is down this year. It's not that strong. You know, our teams aren't as good, and it's come to fruition here. We had a nice little run at the end of non-con play. We saw some good stuff in the beginning of conference play, but this is just what our teams are this year. You kind of Utah State aside. Doesn't mean that they're immune to a bad effort, as we saw a couple times, right? But they seem to have you know, put themselves at a different level here. All right. That up from everybody else. You know, I don't think San Diego State's that far below Utah State, but as far as an at-large profile, they're pretty much up the creek. Okay. They're going to have to win out. I don't see any other path for it. Okay. Because they don't have a lot of good wins either. That Oregon win is horrible. It's garbage. Okay. It's nothing. All right. Anyway, let me run through some comments here because I'm sure there's a lot, and I haven't gotten to any of them because we got such a bam start here with our guests. So upset time, you know it, Jake. Gloria letting GCU in early, killing the Aztecs at large hopes kind of ironic. Yeah, you know what? I mean, look, if that's one way to look at it, the other way to look at it is, look, if you're the flagship program of the conference, you can't lose twice to a newbie who's, you know, from the WAC or wherever they're from, right? Like it like that. Let's call it both ways here. You know, yeah, it is ironic, but that's the way it is, right? I mean, would it be better if GCU wasn't in this year because then San Diego State would have 2 less losses? I guess. But, you know, they still would have the profile that they have now as far as like lack of big time wins, right? And again, that's kind of like rooting for teams to lose to hope you get in. Like, take care of your own business, right? Like, I get your point there, but take care of your own business. Like, you know, you're the flagship program, you know, take care of business and win the games, right? I don't know, Daniel. You think they still have a shot at an at-large? Tonight made it harder. They got to go 5-0. I just don't see them. If they lose another game, that's a 4-2 finish, and they're going to lose again in a conference tournament then because they don't get the at-large. I'm sorry, the automatic bid. I just that's too many losses without a great stack of top wins. I just don't see it. Yeah, they can only drop one more. Yeah, and that's their conference tournament game, really. That's the way I look at it. Maybe that'll change. I really don't know. Yeah, they need to make the finals of the conference tournament. Yeah, it is interesting, Lewis, that they're blaming. You know, I don't know that they're, you know, blaming. It's just kind of yeah, you're right. They can't do anything anyway if they get in. So I guess it really, but it's nice to watch and see what can happen. You never know what can happen on a 1-game basis. Maybe the team they draw, maybe their coach, you know, gets a different job and leaves and they're in disarray. And, you know, maybe Waters goes off for 25 or Gwath hits 4. Who knows? Like are they going to be, do I think they can beat a Power 4 team? Kind of like I said about the other day with New Mexico. Probably not. Probably they cannot. But you know, you at least want to get in with a shot, even if it's the first 4. Okay. I mean, although you don't want to really get in like you did last year in the first 4. Yeah, I mean, if the Lobos needed the GCU help, yeah. I mean, if you're still trying to win the conference, I guess, yes. Like, I don't think that's, it's odd. It's funny. I swear they know what's going on. Like, I looked today for the first time in like 2 weeks at the odds to win the conference before today. And, with the two teams tied and San Diego State, I know Utah State had the head-to-head before today, but they also had to play at Viejas. So you're assuming that San Diego State's going to win that game, right? And then they'd be tied. And I think that San Diego State would have had the tiebreaker as far as getting the number one seed. If they would finish with the same record and they split, they're both co-champs. But for getting the number one seed, I think San Diego State would have had the edge because Utah State lost to UNLV, who was a lower seed. Now, I may be wrong about all that, but Utah State was like a big favorite before tonight for the odds to win the conference. They were like minus 200, and San Diego State was plus 150. New Mexico was like 15-1. Nobody else was close. It's basically a two-man race. So it just seemed odd to me, and I was like, ooh, that seems enticing to take San Diego State there. And, of course, they lose tonight. That's why I said I swear like they know what's going to happen, even though they don't. But, yeah, your figure's probably not the only one, Pat. I think a lot of Aztec backers not happy about that. Craziest night in the Mountain West? I don't think so. We've had some, maybe it's close. It's up there. You got dual upsets at the end of the night, but I'm sure there's some other stuff that we had earlier. You had a Tim and Tom show, Daniel. I'm glad I'm glad they got a win here. I didn't feel BJ and I didn't really feel it was appropriate to have them on after beating Air Force. So, it was nice to get them on against a really good opponent that they beat there. Yeah, Larry, GCU, they do seem to be playing their best against the PAC schools. I said that last year. I don't know if it was New Mexico fans that got upset at me for saying it, or I think it was other schools. But last year, Richard, man, he was on fire against those PAC schools early on. And I swear that was a message from Richard. Some coaches like to give messages for motivation reasons. And I think that was Richard's thing. You could tell he had some comments last year in the preseason about that stuff. And I'm pretty sure he would use those last year. I can't remember all the games anymore, but I remember, especially in the first half of non-con, the Lobos were much more engaged and good against the teams that were leaving. GCU doesn't really care about that because they've never been in the league before. Massive respect for Coach Miles. Jake said he would go to war for Coach Miles. I think a lot of his players feel that way. Boise needs someone like Miles. It's interesting with Miles. Like, I don't know how much, and John, absolutely a class act. Yeah. I mean, listen, that's a tough job. We talk about Air Force being a tough job. We all know that. Not an easy job right there at San Jose State. You watch their games. It's really sad to watch. The NIL is probably the same as you and I have, right? I mean, it's just non-existent, really. Mike, I will, because I didn't watch 1 second of it. I said I wouldn't, and I didn't. I looked and it was 18-14, like almost halfway through the first half, and I said, if this hangs around this margin or close to this for another few minutes, I'll go to it for the end of the first half, because I was watching a Wyoming game, and then next time I looked, it was up to like 13 or whatever, and I just figured, okay, forget it. Dax, good question. Is this another example of the Aztecs' lack of dogs that we saw in the non-con? I think it is, because you heard Henley, right? A big euphemism that they use now is, we got to punch him in the mouth, right? And I don't know if that's a saying that the coaches use or the kids use, whatever it is, right? But they were the far more aggressive team to start the second half. And the Aztecs did not respond. They didn't respond. Dutcher subbed. He called timeout. He tried different whatever, and none of it worked. And that's like Demerol. Perfect example. Evans, other guys, they were physical. They smacked them in the mouth, and the Aztecs did not respond. So you got to be disappointed if you're an Aztec fan about that. We did say in the non-con, I just thought that they just didn't have those dogs. They had dudes, but they didn't have dogs. That was one of my comments back from November or whatever it was, okay? And now I've kind of forgotten about that, gotten away from it. My main criticism was how they don't really step on the throat when they're up big and they let teams back into the game. But man, it's different. It's one thing to have a 15-point lead and give up some buckets down a stretch and only win by 10, right? But it's another thing to be in a tight game and have someone be aggressive and smack you in the mouth and you can't do anything about it and you lose the game. Like that can't happen and it shouldn't happen. Okay, it can't happen and it shouldn't happen. Finalist with Patino was Miles for the New Mexico job, probably, I guess, 5 or 6 years ago by now. Yeah, I mean, look, couldn't have gone wrong if it was Miles. I think he would have done really well there. I mean, look, he made the NCAA tournament with Nebraska. And now Hoiberg obviously has Nebraska very good this season, but I don't think they've made the tournament since Miles had him in the tournament. He had him playing really good ball that year. This is over probably 10, 12, 15 years ago now, after Miles left Colorado State, who he also took to the tournament, I believe, right? Someone could maybe fact check me on that, but I thought he took the Rams to the tournament once. Maybe I'm wrong about that. But he's a very good coach. You couldn't have really gone wrong if you would have done that. Ice Baby, hit the like button. That would be great. I don't even know if there is a like button. I don't know what the buttons are. Sweep. Yeah, big sweep for the Lopes. I mean, that's impressive. No doubt about it. I dropped the ball there, not asking Henley about that foul. I mean, he would have blown it off as though it was no big deal. He's a tough guy. He's a veteran. D, I will tell you this, D, as BJ pointed out months ago when we first started this venture, the Aztecs declined to participate in this show. Every other school did. So had they won, or that's why we haven't had any Aztec fans or coaches on this year, they declined to participate. So sorry that you had to watch that interview. I understand it's sour grapes, but I do have a 5% bit of sour grapes that they refuse to do the show here. Maybe they don't like BJ. I don't know. I mean, everybody else was able to do it for the good of the conference. But, that's an example of San Diego State, I guess too good for the conference. But anyway, nice win for Grand Canyon. Really good win for Grand Canyon. I guess, Nick, if you think it will help them for conference purposes, yeah, I guess. If you definitely win, if you beat the Aztecs at home, definitely does. Jer, I guess, yeah, because that would require them to win at Utah State, and they would have the tiebreaker over both of those teams ahead of them. Now, they would not have the tiebreaker over New Mexico, clearly. So what they would need to get them in the mix would be Utah State would have to lose at San Diego State, because otherwise they're not going to have enough losses. Grand Canyon also would have to win out, and they would need some help somewhere else, because they're 3 games behind Utah State. Now, they could get to 2 games behind by winning at Logan, and then technically that would only be 1 game behind because they'd have the tiebreaker. Although, yeah, it would still be 2 because, they're still 2 games behind. So it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, but they could. Oh, you said at large, not regular season title. At large, I don't think so. I really don't. Their back-to-back losses to UNLV and New Mexico kind of did them in. We'll see. I mean, this is certainly a quad 1 win. And if they win at Utah State, that's another quad 1. So if that happens, then we'll talk. And we'll see if they win Saturday and then they win the game against UNLV next Tuesday or Wednesday, whichever night that is, and then they can win in Logan. Then we'll talk, because then the bracketologists will have that's 2 quad 1 wins, and then they might work their way up. Again, it's going to require them to win. They're going to have to do a Colorado State from last year. They're going to have to win out, and they're going to have to make it at least probably to the finals of the conference tournament, to be honest with you. If you're a fan of a non-Aggie team, you're hoping for a Boise State win tomorrow to get revenge for that blasting. Mackenzie, appreciate you reposting. So now I got more comments, but I want to hear, while you guys can type these in right now, what your takeaways were from that Lobo game. I'll put the stats up really quick. I had not seen the final. I think I saw it was 91-50 at some point. So we have a 98-61 final. I'll just put these up here for 1 minute. If you guys, Lobo fans that were watching, have any tidbits on it. Air Force shoots 38%, Lobos 55%, New Mexico shoots 15 out of 31 from three. Only 11 turnovers, which they really shouldn't. They out-rebound the Falcons 48-23. Air Force uses the whole roster, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. Only 12. Look like more than that. Only 12 guys. A lot of minutes for the starters, I guess. A lot of shots for the starters. Sanders with 13, Hoban with 10. So Albury with 14, and Albury, big night on a stat sheet. 14, 9 boards, 6 assists. Hopped only 8, but he did have 7 boards and 5 assists, Chol, back to his old shooting days, 20 points, 5 boards, 5 out of 10 from 3. Bouillon only took 6 shots to get his 7 points and 10 boards. Jake Hall, 16, hit 3 out of 6 from 3. Rock, 12, off the bench with 4 boards. 5 for 5 from the floor. So, I mean, look, that's what you would expect. Okay. I mean, the Air Force is losing every game by 30 or more. I mean, it's really sad to watch. Well, actually, that's why I don't watch. Love the Air Force Academy. Do not love their basketball program at this point. And they are what they are. But good job by New Mexico. It's after an off day. This was a perfect scheduling spot actually for the Lobos. You have that week off, maybe a little bit of rust, and then you kind of get to work that rust off against a team that has zero chance to compete against you, and get out there and you score 98 and you win by 35, and set up a. I don't even know where the Lobos go this weekend. I got to get a look at the schedule. Big win by GCU tonight. They what does that say? They are a frustrating team to watch. Clearly high ceiling, lose too many games they should win, can go 5 minutes out. Yeah, well, they're capped with they're similar to Nevada. They're capped with their offensive ability. They just are, okay? They're difficult to guard at times with Henley and Williams because they're downhill drivers. We talked about that a week or two ago. But those guys take a lot of shots, and that's how you get Owusu Anane, Demeril, some of the other guys that don't get as many shots maybe as they could or should get at times, right? Especially when Shaw's out because he finds a way to get his shots too. But, yeah, they can go cold because Williams, for as good of a form shooter as Williams looks, he seems to take some wonky shots at times. Now, a couple of them went in tonight. Henley banked a 3 in. There was another one, I think, that bounced up and clanged around and then fell through. Williams threw one in. That was like a circus shot. But look, they do have some droughts, but they make up for it because they play defense, and that's their calling card. So if you ever have a night where you make 7 threes, that's good enough for them, really. Nick says the arena was cold tonight in San Jose. Good win. Nevada made more free throws and field goals. I mean, that's always a thing with an Alford squad trying to get to the foul line. They're not a great shooting team. They do get to the foul line. I did see plenty of fouls. Why I mentioned that to Miles about the bonus. Yes, Aztecs overly confident, have self-belief that they're head and shoulders better, and think the talent is enough. Yeah, that's what I've said a lot, Nicholas, that they think they're too cool for school, right? What do we got here? Pre-game thoughts for Utah State. Yeah, I will get to that, Dax, in 1 second. I want to talk about the Wyoming-Fresno game for a few minutes, and then I'll talk about the 2 games for tomorrow. Steve, kudos to Olin for all the bench minutes. Could have run up the score if he wanted to. Yeah, I'm sure he could have won by 50, to be honest. Boise to win out. I'm giving that ghost up sick after the blown lead against UNLV. I'll talk about that one in a second. John, I know you hope they can win, and I'll believe it if I see it tomorrow night. Keller, might be time to sound the 1-bid siren. I'm still holding out hope that we can get 2. BJ said, make sure to subscribe. We got a lot of you guys watching on the channel, which is great. We've been trying to feed the people through, instead of watching through X or where else, to watching through YouTube through the channel here. So let's keep that up. Feel like the conference tournament results don't matter other than the auto bid considering recent seasons. Yeah, maybe not. Jared, I saw that today. I saw that Santa Clara was in ahead of teams like San Diego State and New Mexico, which is a little bit confusing. They had their chance on Saturday and they didn't get crushed, but they were at home, biggest probably one of the biggest home games in their program's history. Well, certainly since they had Steve Nash, right? And they lost the game. Now, it's never a bad loss when you lose to Gonzaga, but that was your chance, man. You're on the bubble. You got Gonzaga coming into your building. Gonzaga just took a loss like a week ago or a week and a half ago against Portland, so they're a little vulnerable. They got one of their big guys hurt. They're good, but are they top 5 good? Probably not. You're playing good, and you had a lead into the second half, and you can't get it done. I don't know who's their good win against. Is their win against Stanford, or did they beat St. Mary's? I don't really know, but it is confusing why they are ahead of New Mexico, for example, considering the Lobos beat them by 25. And when I remember watching that game in a non-con, I was like, man, this team's not even I know they beat Nevada by 20. That was a perfect spot for Santa Clara early in the year. It was the first road game for Nevada. I kind of knew that was coming that night, and I had said that way back at the start of the season on my pod. So that one didn't surprise me. But watching Santa Clara that night against New Mexico, they wanted no part of the defensive pressure that the Lobo guards brought. They weren't even close to being competitive in that game. Obviously, they're playing much better now. Hasendik's a good coach, and I believe they're a good team, but I don't get why they are ahead of New Mexico and San Diego State. Although, look, our teams aren't doing themselves much favors either with some of the losses that we have. But yeah, Jared, to finish your point, you did win at VCU, at GCU. 2 quad 1 road games. I think a future win against San Diego State will lock them in. It's not going to lock you in. There's no way, because you're not even in the field right now. So if you're out of the field, no one win is going to lock you in, because, that's assuming you lose at Utah State, right? So, if you go, because you won tonight, you go 4-1 to finish, that would give you a good win at Nevada. I don't know if that would be quad 1. That would probably be quad 2 after tonight. You get a quad 2, maybe quad 1 still, but you get a quad 1 or 2 again if you can win at Nevada, and a quad 1, or it might even be 2, probably 2, beating San Diego State at home. But that's going to require you to win at Nevada, right? And that's certainly no freebie. Okay, that's no freebie, because again, you'll get a different effort from the Pac on that night than you did tonight. Okay. And of course it's going to be if you can win at Logan, that will be better than beating San Diego State at home, to be honest. If you lose one more game, you'd rather have it be the San Diego State game, I guess, because you can get that win at Utah State. So, a lot of other things have to play out, the way that teams play, all that stuff. Let's see what else. Ewokes appreciates BJ backing and launching the channel. Yeah, 100%. You've said that before, but I think this has been a great addition to the content here for the conference. I'm appreciative and glad that BJ invited me to do it. It's been really awesome. It goes very quick when you're in the moment, even, when those days and that alarm comes early after a few hours sleep, and, I'm dragging in the middle of the day, but, I don't mind at all. We only have a few weeks left. And it's been awesome. So, appreciate you guys hanging in there. As a Boise fan, helps knowing that at least one other Mountain West school would probably lose to Hawaii Pacific. I don't know. Would they? Tim with CSU in 2012, so he did make it. Okay. And then I think the Nebraska one was maybe 2014 or 2015, I think. So he thanks, Steve. So he has made it with both programs. I mean, look, he's a very good coach. And I don't know, I didn't finish this thought because I went off on that tangent, but I don't know if he's got another job in him or not. He's not he's not a spring chicken anymore. He's still got some years left. And don't get me wrong, if he would get an offer somewhere, he would probably take it, because it would be a place where he'd have more support financially, NIL, recruiting, fan base, all that stuff. I don't know. I hope it comes for him, but yeah, that's funny. Well, I appreciate you saying that, D-Rax, that you have sour grapes and them for not doing the show. I was going to send in a complaint about that. I mean, it is disappointing. If everybody else, if it would have been 50-50, I don't think BJ would have said that a month ago when we started, and I wouldn't have reiterated it here. But when every other program in the conference says yes, then you're out on an island there. So then it kind of makes you look like you're something, right? Fill in the blank, whatever you want to say there. So, I mean, yeah, a little bit. Does the Nevada loss help Boise in terms of seeding? I guess it does. Yeah. I mean, Boise's probably still what? I'd have to look at the updated standings. I think that gives Nevada. Does that give Nevada 6 losses? Let me see if I can pull it up here on my other screen, as I have like 2 computers and like 42 windows open. Let me see if I can pull up the current standings. Standings. Men's basketball. Hopefully they have them updated. They do. So Utah State 12-2, San Diego State 12-3, New Mexico 11-4, Grand Canyon 10-5, Nevada 9-6, UNLV 8-6, Boise 7-7. So I mean, look, Boise has to win tomorrow night, and then they're a game back. If they lose tomorrow, they're 2 back. Okay, and they're. I didn't look at the point spreads, but I'm assuming they're a double-digit underdog tomorrow up in Logan. So doesn't. Again, I said this the other show. I said it on my pod. Doesn't mean they can't win, right? We saw a team that got blasted by their opponent before, just by 30, win tonight in San Jose State against Nevada. So just because Utah State won by 30 in Boise doesn't mean that the Broncos can't win tomorrow night. Clearly they can. Okay, they have the potential. They have the players. They have a coach who knows how to get it done. He went down 2 weeks ago, a week and a half ago, and won in the pit when nobody expected him to do so. So I'm not counting them out. It is going to be difficult to do, though. Okay, it's going to be difficult to do. But yeah, it didn't hurt. It didn't hurt, because the other thing too is that you don't want to be tied with Grand Canyon if you're Boise, because they have the tiebreaker over you. They swept you 2-0. So, let Grand Canyon beat everybody else. And, you would want New Mexico to lose a few games, right? I mean, you're kind of far away from them at this point, but you want teams like New Mexico and Nevada. You don't want to be tied with UNLV or Grand Canyon because they both swept you. So I think UNM can win out. But that's your bias as a fan. Yeah, I mean, look, I don't ever really go to that Ken Palm stuff, but I am pretty sure Ken has him losing. Well, I know he has him losing the Utah State game. Maybe he has him losing another game. I don't know, but I'm pretty sure. Although tonight did no favors for Nevada, but I said before, I would think Nevada will be a small favorite in that game in Reno. Against the Lobos, but it's a toss-up. Obviously the Lobos can win that game, but it was tight when they played in a pit, and Nevada's played tight games against the top teams. They just didn't show up tonight. Yeah, they are D3. That's what I said. And I was listening to a pod today or yesterday, one of the days, other like national people. It wasn't a Mountain West pod, it was a national podcast, and the guys echoed what I had said, that something needs to be done about Air Force. They referenced the fact, like I've said, that Air Force was 300 spots lower than New Mexico before tonight in Ken Palm. And that's a conference game. Like you don't see that anywhere. You don't see that anywhere. Because the top 50, like it can only happen if you're top 50 in Ken Palm, right? There's only 360 teams. So it can only be like from 60 to 360, 40 to 340, whatever it is. And the top 50-ish teams are all from the good conferences, right? And they don't have teams that are that low. So we all know the conference is changing, but something needs to be done there. Something needs to be done. Good game. Chol, Albury's points were in garbage time. Appreciate that, Larry. Did not know that. Interesting. First half rebounding 22-5. That's wild. Okay. Lobo game blowout, played much better D in the second half. Yeah, because it seemed like Air Force maybe made a few shots. And I could totally see that, trying new rotations and schemes, trying to throw another wrinkle in. Again, look, I hate to say it, but this is like as close to a scrimmage as you're going to get, right? When you play at lower levels, D3, high school, you can get scrimmages in the middle of your season if you have like a week off or you're preparing for playoffs or whatever it is. You don't do that at this level, right? You're not even allowed to do it, but you wouldn't do it anyway at this point in the season. You only have your team to scrimmage against, your second team, whatever. That's why women's teams would scrimmage against males from the college, because they'll provide stiffer competition, right? Well, this is as close to a scrimmage as you can get, where you can try other things. You can throw different wrinkles out there defensively, work on this, work on that, see what might work. Absolutely. Did Albury score with 7 seconds left? Well, first of all, I would question why he's in with 7 seconds left. And then, yes, I didn't see it, but obviously I was critical of the Utah State issue the other night against Memphis. And so I would take issue with that as well. Not really a fan of that, especially against Air Force. Have a little bit of self-awareness there, Albury. There's no need to do that if that's the case. Chol scored 20. You think they can win out? Yeah, Adam, we'll see. I mean, they can. And New Mexico, that's right. I did see that. That is kind of an interesting one right there. That's one, it hasn't been talked about at all. We've talked about all the other games that they have. We've talked about them going to Nevada. We've talked about them going to Utah State. And we've talked about them hosting San Diego State. And here, stuck in the middle, is this game against Fresno. Now, let me get to Fresno for a minute, because you're going to look at the score, and they didn't look very good. I wouldn't say they didn't look very good, but did I put this one up here? Oh, I think I have it set already. Okay, so 92-82 was the final. It really wasn't a 10-point game. It was shorter than that most of the night. Wyoming did a nice job stretching it out in the second half. Both teams shot the ball well. Wyoming made 15 threes. They took a ton. They took 33, and that was their game plan. They just fired three after fired three. They got some offensive rebounds. How many? 12, although Fresno got 11. Both teams shot it well, didn't turn it over well. It's a pretty well-played game. I thought it was an enjoyable game to watch. I got to watch most of it solo because the first hour and a half, actually first hour and 40 came before the other game came on TV. So I was able to watch it in full. It was a good game to watch. Hyde Brader was out for Fresno. Douglas was out for Fresno. So that limits them. This was always going to be a tough matchup. Wyoming, lost at Fresno, so you figured they'd want to get this one back, and they did. So good job. They haven't had many wins lately. I think someone said they were like 2-8 in their last 10. So a good one to get here for Sundance and his crew. Wilson Jock, 19-12. He was big. Collins, they couldn't guard Collins early, but he didn't really have much of an impact late, or really much of the second half at all. 5 double-figure scores for Wyoming. Pretty impressive. Meyer with 22, Dennis 17, Bennett 17, Rojas 11, and Walker 10. And Bennett also had 8 rebounds and 5 assists. So, some pretty good stat lines there for the Cowboys. A good win for them to get. And I won't talk about it much because we'll preview it, I guess, tomorrow. So, oddly, the no Friday games. Not understanding why that is, but 2 weeks in a row now, we have no Friday games. No Friday games this week, no Friday games next week. So tomorrow, after the doubleheader, we'll look at the Saturday games. Full Saturday slate, 6 games, some important games, clearly, some good games. And we're going to have to preview those 2 tomorrow. Absolutely agree. I've said this before, Lobo, something has to be done about it. And I don't know if they'll initiate those conversations in a month or 2. Maybe they'll wait until the school's leave, and then, suffer through one more season and then do something about it. I really don't know. Max, chance to get a 6 seed. It rests on tomorrow night, right? They have to win tomorrow night. Okay. You lose tomorrow night, you're going to fall to 3, 4, 5, 6. You're going to fall to 7 and 8, and you're going to be 7th in the conference. Okay. And then you're going to have to worry about Colorado State. I know you beat Colorado State, but you're going to be tied with Colorado State, and you have to go to Fort Collins the last game of the regular season. And that's not going to be easy. I know they don't have a massive senior class, but that's one that they'll show up for. You'll get a nice crowd. They lost up at Boise, so you're going to want to get a little bit of a measure of revenge. And that's what it might come down to, that for the 7 and 8 seed, to be honest, unless UNLV goes in a tank here a little bit. Excuse me, a little bit of indigestion. I need some water. Anyway, so I don't know. They could, but it hinges on tomorrow night. They come out and get beat tomorrow night, then they're trying to stay out of the 8-9 game, really, is the way it looks. Okay. Inches from greatness was in Viejas tonight. Credit GCU. They hit shots, played tough. D, serious off night for the Aztecs. Goon back down to earth. Reese, uncharacteristic no-show. Got to get hot down a stretch. Excellent summation right there. Brilliant. Okay. I don't know if I mentioned him when I was going through the stats. Waters, he was definitely invisible tonight. No doubt about it. Goon, it kind of would have been foolish to expect him to play every game here on out the way he played on Saturday. That's not really realistic, as talented as he is, but you can't have, a subpar game from him and a no-show from Waters. You finally get a good Bird tonight offensively, whereas I said he hasn't done much at all in the last 3 weeks offensively. Heaven forbid, if he wouldn't have showed up tonight, they would have lost by 20. They would have not scored 60 points. Well, they already got to 63. They wouldn't even scored 55 had Bird not shown up tonight. So, Yeah, with the Nevada loss. Yeah, Max helps a little bit, but again, you got to take care of your business tomorrow. Ewok, handle business. The Air Force stalled many possessions. Yeah, they're deliberate. Chol found his rhythm. Hall as well. Fresno, then Nevada. Should expect do or die by Pack. Yeah, that will not be an easy game. Interesting fly. They play the two bigs together. I've had some conversations with some Lobo fans on Twitter about that. It might be John, might be Jared, might be some other JR. I don't know who it is. We've talked about that. I do like that. I just don't think it's part of what Olin likes to do offensively. So this might have been one of those examples of him tinkering with stuff, and he could do that against the opponent tonight. So, 100% Jello, 100%. Oh, and it's not Jello, it's Gel Lobo. I thought that was Jello. I thought you were like a Jello shot guy. Okay. Yeah. Why would you want to be in? And that's part of the issue with Joe Scott too. Like, does he even want to come back if they would take him back? Like, this can't be fun. Like, it's fun to watch that direct deposit go into your bank account. Okay. But man, is that fun to show up and get on a plane to go down somewhere and get smoked by 25? And that's if you play well. Otherwise, it's 35 like tonight. Okay. I mean, holy macro. As far as Sky, I don't know. BJ and I have talked about this. We're not sure what to do here. We'll figure something out for next year. We got to talk about it. We got to figure some stuff out. Grand Canyon, Aggie, definitely going to be tough in a tournament. They have a tournament profile. Bryce Drew obviously knows how to win tournament games. Okay. And we'll see how the matchups shake out for them. They clearly want to avoid New Mexico. They like to draw like Boise in the quarterfinal. I don't know if that's possible. I guess in the 3-6 it's possible if that's how it would shake out. They seem to like their matchup against Boise, but not so much against New Mexico. Regardless, they're going to have to win 3 games against 3 good teams. That's just the way it is when they're not going to be a top 2 seed, right? And so, I mean, I guess they can get the 3 seed. They're a game behind. But see, it's going to be very difficult for them to get the 3 seed because they're a game behind New Mexico, and they don't have the tiebreaker because the Lobo swept them. So they're looking at a 4 seed is what they're hoping for, because they don't have a tiebreaker over Nevada either, because Nevada beat them and they don't play twice. So they could get the 5 seed. Now, the only thing that makes them do is play the Wednesday game against Air Force, and they'd still be in the 4-5 and then have to play likely Utah State in the quarterfinals. But they're going to have to win 3 games against 3 good teams. They could do it, but it's going to be difficult to do. But yeah, we'll see. Utah State got help from GCU. Yeah, I don't. There's no way they're going to get up to a 5 seed, Tate. I guess 6 is possible. I've read some bracketology stuff that says 7 is likely if they run the table here. They just don't have enough high end wins. Their other metrics are okay. They have 1 bad loss, and if they can keep it to that, it's not that bad. The problem is, and this is just what you face in these conferences, in our conference, is that these other teams, they just play so many damn games against like good teams. You fall into like quad 1 wins by accident, because all you have to do is show up like once a week at 1 of your 2 games and you get a quad 1 win. And so, we know the deck is stacked against us. We just have to play the cards the way they come out. So, too many mistakes for San Diego State did them in, Devin says. Wonder why sit the starters in the second half. Huh. Oh, yeah. BJ said, when I said earlier, who needs water, crack open a Sun Cruiser. This thing's been sitting up here, I said, for like the last 6 weeks, although I don't really have the heat going in here, so it is a little chilly. The problem is I got to get up for work in 5 hours. So, I don't know if they're the best team. They have the potential to be that. I mean, look, I don't know many teams in the country in their conference that can say that they're 3-0 against the top 2 teams in their conference. That doesn't happen very often. Like, GCU is in 4th place. They're 10-5 in the conference, and they're 3-0 against the 2 teams at the top. Very odd. Very odd. Okay. All right, listen, I've been at it an hour and 13. I want to just mention for a couple minutes the stuff for tomorrow night. We've hit on a little bit because we've had some questions about it. I mean, look, Utah State, Boise State tomorrow. I mean, look, the Aggies know what's ahead of them here. clearly they're aware of everything, as evidenced by what took place at the end of the game Saturday night. So they're not going to be sleeping here. They also consider this a rivalry game. They're not going to take their foot off the gas. They respect the Boise program. They respect Leon Rice. Whether the fans do or not is a different matter, right? That's fandom. But we know Calhoun. We know the players. They respect the Boise program. They're not really looking at the fact that the Broncos are 7-7 and 15-10 overall. They're looking at the fact that they have a talented team that's in the postseason hunt every year. And prior to last year, they made 3 NCAA tournaments in a row. And it's a team that can come in and be dangerous and knock you off. They're also going to point to the fact, Calhoun will, that look at what just happened last night, aka tonight, okay, where we have two teams nobody expected to win go in on the road, and well, one of them's at home, and get victories, okay? So I would expect the Aggies to be engaged. They'll be ready to go. You know, they're not going to be like taking Boise for granted because they already beat them by 30 the way that maybe Nevada was tonight, right? So you know, I think it's going to take a really poor shooting night for the Aggies for Boise to hang in this one. You know, I see a path to some points for Boise. Andrews didn't have the game last weekend that he had the week before. The problem is, you know, where's Boise at mentally here, right? Their last game was probably as deflating a game as you could have, where, you know, they've had a really topsy-turvy season here, okay? Lose to a D2 opponent opening night. You know, you pile up some really good wins. You have some disappointing losses. You have some frustrating, you know, things happen with your fans, with the coach, and all this stuff. You get some really good wins. You're playing good basketball, and then you blow like a 17-point lead with 8 minutes to go against a team that you feel you're better than, that you wanted to beat because they already beat you. And it's just like, man, I know they had a couple extra days. It's not like they played Saturday and then Tuesday like everybody in the conference did tonight. So that in that sense, it helps them a little bit to have more distance and separation between the two nights. But man, it's got to be tough to respond there. Like I can't imagine that I'm sure Leon gave them off Saturday. Maybe they came in to watch film and get shots up or get a lift in or something. But I can't imagine they went through a rigorous workout, especially with the extra day in there. But I can't imagine that like Sunday's practice was the most crisp practice that the Broncos have had all year. You know, and yes, I think they'll come and they'll show up and they'll be ready to play. But when you get behind by like 8 or you get behind by 11 and the crowd's going nuts, it's a lot easier to give in when you've just gone through that than when you've won 6 out of 7. And if had they finished that game off by 12 and they would have been riding high and, you know, here we are again, you know, we're close to the bubble and we're going to get a top 4 seed and we're playing good basketball and let's buck ourselves up here and pull ourselves up by the bootstraps and let's go get this one. It's a lot easier to do that when you're rolling than it is when you come in off of a blown 17-point lead in the last 8 minutes. So I have some questions about how they'll show up. Now, look, that theory or angle of mine has certainly not been foolproof. You know, I didn't think UNLV would show up after the way they gave that Fresno game away, and they proved me wrong by beating Grand Canyon. So clearly it's not, you know, a home run. That's just kind of my feeling on it. That's my feeling on it. So, you know, I do expect the Aggies to win. I don't think they'll win by 20 and embarrass the Broncos the way that they did up in Extra Mile back at the start of conference season. But I think they'll win the game by 8 to 10-ish, I guess. The other one is an interesting game. Again, a battle for seeding. UNLV is playing really good basketball. They don't seem to mind going on the road because, frankly, like they don't get much of a home court advantage coming off of there on the other side of the coin here. Man, you have to feel like they probably wanted to freaking go practice on Saturday, right? After pulling that upset off and the way they came back against the Broncos. They want to get in the gym. They want to go play again. They can't wait to watch that film and like celebrate and watch all the good things that happen. And Gibbs Lawhorn's playing like he could play in the NBA All-Star game, right? And all that stuff. So they come in flying high. The Rams, albeit against not the greatest competition, have won 2 in a row. I don't know Pasquarelli's status. I didn't really check on that. The injury report today that the conference put out did not include the 2 games for tomorrow, so I did not see whether he's out or not. clearly hurts their depth a little bit if he is out. But they have enough guys. Ali's been using plenty of guys. He can slide somebody else in there and move some guys around. And let's be fair, Pasquarelli has not played super, shot the ball well much of this calendar year anyway. So look, how are the Rams going to defend Gibbs Lawhorn? That's a huge issue here. They haven't been a great defensive team all season. At times it looked like they might be improving, but I think they kind of regress every time. It's like a step and a half forward, a step and a half back. And so, how are they going to defend Gibbs Lawhorn? Sometimes there is no defense for Gibbs Lawhorn, right? What kind of help does Gibbs Lawhorn get? I don't know that you'll see Kamani Hamilton make 3 threes again the way he has a few times lately. But can they get the same game out of Walter Brown the way he's been playing? Can they get good minutes out of the big guys inside like Tyron Jones? Okay. So there's certainly players on the roster, as we've seen this Rebel team throw out there, that they can get a win on the road. I'm not going to write them off. I think it's going to be a close game. It was a close game. Hold on a minute. Am I wrong about this one? Actually might be at UNLV now that I'm thinking about it. I think I have this wrong. I think the Rams won the game in Fort Collins. So this game actually, excuse me, I was wrong. This game is at the Thomas and Mack. So that's not an advantage for UNLV. In some ways, sometimes it's a disadvantage, but it does, I guess, hurt CSU a little bit in the fact that they're not at home and now they have to travel. I guess the best thing for them out of this is it gives them a little bit of practice 3 weeks shy of when they'll be playing Wednesday night in the 7-10 or 8-9 game or wherever they wind up in the conference tournament. So can they travel and get a nice road win? I don't know if they really have any of those this year in conference play. Most of their wins have come at home. And so, this will be interesting. You got to favor UNLV at this point, but we all know that it's difficult to trust them, night in and night out. So that should be an interesting one to watch. Now, I didn't really coordinate this with BJ or not as we got a Boise fan bleeding blue. Time for the upset. Hey, we saw 2 tonight, so why not? Tate says he thinks that Utah State could get the Mountain West disrespect. When it comes to seeding and find yourselves in the 8-9 game. Yeah, and the frustrating thing this year is you really do not want to be in that 8-9 game because the 1 seed seem really, really tough. I mean, it's never easy to upset a 1 seed in the second round, but man, they just look really, really solid this year. And I think, they're not going to be easy to beat either, but some of the 2 seeds have the potential to be a little bit vulnerable. And if you find yourselves in a 7-10 game, you win as a 7 seed over the 10 seed, you play well, you can pick off a 2 seed in the second round, right? Depends on matchups and who it is and all that stuff. And obviously, if they would jump up to a 6, then even better against a 3. But you don't want to be in that 8-9 game. But again, a lot of that's going to determine be determined by what they do down a stretch. You lose a game here, it's going to sink them down. And it's going to be tough for them to get out of that because there's just not going to be enough quality wins for them to pick up in the last month if they lose another game, because that's going to be to a good team. It's going to eliminate a quad 1 win, probably in all likelihood. So, all right. Oh, as I was saying, I got to coordinate with BJ what time I'm going to come on. So we have a 10:30 Eastern tonight as I look on the other computer here. 10:30 Eastern FS1, 8:30 Mountain, Boise at Utah State. Then 11 Eastern, 9 Mountain, Colorado State at UNLV on CBS Sportsnet. So both on cable, late night. Boise starts a half an hour before. Now, we all know those will be pushed back 15 minutes each, right? The Utah State game will start at 10:45 Eastern, and the UNLV game will start at 11:15 Eastern. So it'll be a half hour apart at the start. If the game flow is similar, Boise will end a half an hour before UNLV does. So with BJ going live right away within a few minutes, I will likely get on maybe a few minutes after UNLV goes final, maybe not right away. I'll have to talk to him, see how long he goes. Some of that will be determined by how the game goes, of course. But stay tuned for all of that. I'll let you know, of course, when I'm going on. All right, let's just wrap this guy up here. One more shout out to the Sun Cruiser. I didn't crack it open. Maybe I will tomorrow while I'm watching the games. We'll see. If not, definitely Thursday or Friday. Also, subscribe down at the bottom, please, at Mountain West BNN. I see it scrolling on the bottom right now, at Mountain West BNN. Free subscription. Just click on subscribe. You got to be a YouTube member, but everybody is these days doing their stuff on YouTube. So just click subscribe. Helps me out. I would appreciate it very much. Lastly, one more thanks to each Tim Miles and Jaden Henley, head coach, San Jose State, player for Grand Canyon after their wins. Both got them both on live, back to back. Awesome stuff. BJ coordinating that, the SIDs for each school, being gracious enough to track those guys down right after a win, to do more media obligations. Really appreciate them giving up 5 to 10 minutes of their time to come on here and answer some questions. So love that. Love all of your interaction here. It's 1:45 on the East Coast, 11:45 for many of you. I know it's late for you guys as well. So you guys can get some rest. I can get some rest. We can all get some rest, and we can reconvene tomorrow night. So thanks so much for being here. Appreciate all of it. And we'll see you back here tomorrow night on another night in the Mountain West.
Get ready for the time of your life at Circa Resort and Casino, Las Vegas's newest destination for fun, featuring the world's biggest poolside tailgate party with 3 levels of action, 6 pools, and a 143-foot screen. The fun is always on deck with all the games all year long. Stadium Swim, located in downtown Las Vegas on Fremont Street. Book the time of your life today at circalasvegas.com.